Hey everybody, it's Professor Malat with the Week 5 overview. After this week, we will officially be 1/3 of the way through the semester. So we're actually transitioning this week from our rhetorical analysis unit, which was the first 4 weeks, and now we're going to spend several weeks on the research portion of our class. So we're going to be doing all sorts of things like exploring your topic, your sources, learning how to use the library databases, learning how to write a research report, compare and contrast source material, and adding your unique voice to the conversation that is surrounding your research question. So the research argument essay is significantly longer. It is 8 to 10 pages. That is not including your list of resources. And it requires a synthesis of multiple texts. You'll be using at least 6 outside sources to help support your argument. So for this reason, it's really critical that you choose a topic that you can successfully research and discuss at length without relying on or repeating any former work on the subject. So let us look at the readings first because those are really important, the readings and the lectures that we have this week. In our textbook, that reading is dealing with asking questions and finding sources. And this will help you with the week 5 short writing, which is coming up with a paper topic and some research questions. I'll talk about that in a minute. The other readings here, how to write a research argument. This is something that you can refer to time and again as we work through the unit, as well as the research argument assignment. So let me pull up that PDF and talk through it just briefly here. Many college writing assignments are forms of argumentative writing. So in this assignment, again, you'll choose a topic. You'll write an 8 to 10 page researched argumentative essay where you're going to have to make an argument, choose a claim, support it with your research, that kind of thing. I'm sure many of you are familiar with that from your high school writing classes, or if you've taken English comp someplace else and didn't do quite so well and you have to repeat it. You're probably familiar with a research writing assignment. And this is something that can overwhelm students a little bit. So I like to break it down into steps. That way, when you have a research assignment that you have to write for another class, you know the steps that you have to take in order to be successful in your research. So it will be a major writing assignment that will include the development of your own ideas, the integration of sources, and proper formatting of your references to those sources. In this class, because it's an English class, we use MLA citation. Again, if you are a high school student in CCP, or if you're a recent high school graduate, chances are pretty good that in your English classes you were exposed to MLA citation. For those of you who are a little bit older, MLA might be a whole new thing for you, but we'll go over, and we have resources that will help you with MLA citation. So anyway, let's take a look at this listing here of the various shorter and longer assignments that will go into this whole unit. So this week we have the paper topic with 2 research questions that'll be due on Sunday the 29th. We have a source evaluation worksheet for 4 sources. We're not going to do it for all of your sources. I just want you to research 4 sources. This will help you get the ball rolling with your research. That's the whole point of it, is to help you not wait until the last minute until it becomes such an overwhelming thing. You're like, oh my gosh, I have this big thing to do and I haven't made any progress, right? So these assignments are baby steps to help you work through the various things that you need to do when you're doing a research report. You'll have a formal paper proposal with an annotated bibliography for 8 of your sources. So by the middle of October, you need to have all of your sources pinned down. The following week, we'll have an introduction paragraph draft, a working thesis, and possibly an outline for the essay body. That will be followed up by peer review, which is on the 27th of October. or your rough draft. I'm sorry. It says peer review rough draft. It's your rough draft that's due the 27th. And then again, peer review will be due. It's going to be a midweek thing. And then your final revision will be due November 3rd. So we have several weeks, right? The whole month of October. And we're dipping a little bit from September and the early part of November. So we have roughly, I think, 5 to 6 weeks of work where we can concentrate on this whole thing called research. That will be the big thing, and you'll be getting it out of the way before final exams, right? That's the good news, because then after we finish with the research, we get to do something a little bit more fun. So you'll be expected to take feedback that you receive, of course, on each of these smaller assignments to help you in your writing and your revision. You'll receive constructive feedback from your peers and me as you work through each of the activities to the final paper. At the bottom in bold, we have the essay requirements. Again, it will be 8 to 10 pages. That does not include your list of resources, the works cited page. It should be an MLA format. Again, you should by now know the drill. You need to have a clear thesis statement that's explicitly stated in the introduction. I will give you a little leeway there. Claims and counter arguments will be supported by your sources. You'll be able to integrate quotations, paraphrases, and summaries from 6 sources, 2 of which must be scholarly and academic. And now you're probably saying, well, wait, 6 sources, but we have 8 sources for the annotated bibliography. So yeah, 6 sources. For the annotated bibliography, sometimes as you are researching and you start writing things, you realize, oh, you know what? I thought this source was going to be perfect, but I can't use it. So at least we have 6 sources that you can depend on. 2 of which should be scholarly / academic journal articles. The correct use of MLA citations, and of course, you must include a separate works cited page or pages, depending on how long those citations are for each of your sources. We'll be reviewing this each week just so that we can keep the information fresh in your minds, but that is the research argument essay assignment. So let's go back to week 5. I wish it would just go right back to the module every time I open something. It's usually when I open a PDF and I forget that I can just click on close and go back into the module. So that's on me. So with lectures and media, there is a 10-minute research unit overview video that I have recorded for this English 1001 class. I recommend and really, really encourage you to sit through it, so that way you get to understand why research is so important in college classes. There's also a very short video on developing a research question. And again, that will help you with the paper topic and research questions that's due on Sunday. So let's take a look at that. Obviously, you need to figure out a good research topic. And by figuring out a good topic, right, you can have an idea of what you want to research, but really the nuts and bolts of research with inquiry-driven research is coming up with a question or a few questions that you will seek to answer. So a topic or question is different from your thesis statement. But once you start to research a particular topic and you start to get more information, you'll be well informed to be able to assert a position. And that assertion will become your thesis statement. So we have some information from the UC Student Guide to English Comp 1001. Choosing a research topic can be difficult. It needs to be arguable, have scholarly value, that is, provide something to the scholarly conversation, be broad enough for a balanced discussion, and yet it should also be narrow enough that it isn't too broad, right? So because it needs to be manageable, your topic also needs to be narrow enough for a detailed discussion of relevant issues. So I want you to think about your topics, list 3 issues or topics that you're interested in exploring further, and answer the following questions about each. What do you know and believe about this issue? And how did you develop an understanding of the issue, right? So that is for your topic, how you're coming about to a topic that you really want to write about. Remember again that it needs to be arguable, not just an exploration of X, Y, or Z, right? It needs to be arguable. Um, so, how you get to be discovering that arguable point is where you start asking questions, right? So, the first assignment for your research essay is to submit 2 potential research questions. And here's something that I want you to think about as you formulate your own questions. What are the central questions that need to be addressed in relation to this issue, the topic that you are hoping to write about? And what are, or what do you suppose, would be at least 2 important objections to your stance on the issue? So, if, for example, you would like to argue about in favor of term limits for Supreme Court justices, if that's something that you're passionate about, then you need to think about some questions related to that issue, right? What are some of the objections to that stance? What would somebody, if you were having a discussion or an argument in class, what would be somebody who has the opposite point of view, right? So write and submit 1 to 2 pages stating your proposed essay topic, 2 research questions, and a paragraph for each of those questions that identifies the concerns, controversies, or problems that come up most frequently when people talk about that topic that you are going to write about. So remember to consider your own interest in the topic. It's much easier to write about something and to research something when you're curious about it, when you want to know more, rather than just picking any old topic, right? So make sure that you're able to fully research and whether or not the issue invites opposition, right? So again, it wouldn't be like, I'm just trying to think of something that would be non-arguable, right? So, an overview of or a history of UC in the state of Ohio. I don't know, something like that, right? That's just an overview. It's not really arguable, but again, pick a topic that you can have a little bit of opposition with. Hopefully that makes sense. If it doesn't, feel free to email me for clarity. Again, this was taken from the UC Student Guide to English Composition, so it's not a prompt that I came up with on my own. But hopefully it's pretty clear. That will be due September 29th. I do not have a rubric for that. I probably have one floating around somewhere, so you might see one that pops up later. If we go back into the week 5 module, the other assignment we have is a discussion board on trusting sources. So your initial post will be due September 29th, and as usual, your responses to peers should be due that Wednesday, October 2nd. So let's take a minute to look at this. Please answer the following questions to prepare for discussion. Be sure to respond in complete sentences, not only with 1 or 2 words. When you're thinking of buying something, where do you look and whose opinions do you trust? When you hear about a current event or a term you're not quite sure of, which websites do you feel confident will provide you with dependable information? What social media apps do you frequent the most? How do you determine if the information you receive on that site is trustworthy, reliable, and accurate? If there are certain places you rely on, are there others that you avoid because you feel they're biased? And lastly, what makes you believe certain sources and doubt others? So this assignment will help to bridge us from exploring topics to learning about how we find sources and what sources we can trust and which ones are probably not as trustworthy. So again, that kind of deals with to go back to our rhetorical analysis unit, dealing with things like logos and ethos and pathos, right? So you have that foundation of how people write, how people speak to persuade others. So now you can think a little bit more critically, right? So the deal this week, review the research unit overview video, do the reading in the textbook, take a look at the researched argument assignment, as well as how to write a researched argument. Again, this is something that you'll be able to come back to over the next several weeks. And then figure out what your paper topic is and formulate a couple of questions. Again, just try your best. It doesn't have to be perfect. But I want you to get into the habit of asking questions rather than saying, I'm going to write about X, right? Come up with some questions. So that way, when you have questions, you can then start researching answers to those questions. That's the whole point of research as inquiry or inquiry-based research. All right, folks, if you have any questions, you know how to get in touch with me, and have a fantastic week. Thanks. Bye-bye.